If every single one of us around the world today used our voices to call for action from our politicians, from our CEOs, from our healthcare professionals, from our sports heroes, from our neighbours, friends and families, we could change our society.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is important to me because there's so many advantages and benefits coming out of really getting this work right, making sure that everybody has the opportunity to be heard, to be themselves, to feel like their voice matters. I was on a call earlier this morning and someone asked me, they said, you know what, what's the common theme around diversity and inclusion that everyone can get their arms around? Because it's different everywhere. And I said, well, one of the things around D&I that we all can get our hands around is we all wanted to be treated with dignity and respect. And if we ground this work in just those two words right there, treat people with dignity, treat them with respect, then that'll start every conversation making people feel like they're valued.
And if we truly want to lay a path for the future, I think it's really time for us to shape what a diverse and inclusive society can be. In many ways, I too have been on the wrong side of the diversity and inclusion discussion. But what I've learned from it is when you come through it stronger, you just lay a path for the future. So I continue to be passionate because for those who follow us, they will never become what they cannot see.
For me, I don't believe that you can get diversity, or at least sustainable diversity, without inclusion. And any high performance culture or good team culture has psychological safety at the forefront of that, where people can say what they truly feel without fear of being judged. And Leena mentioned it at the start: bring your whole self to the table all of the time. So the inclusion side is a cultural value we individually and collectively together should put on value in those diverse perspectives, because it's not just the right thing to do. It drives a better performance, and it's not just about differences in gender, race, or sexual orientation, but a diverse culture is a difference of thought and opinion, background, experiences, beliefs, and that dialogue brings so much more to the party. And improves the overall outcome of the environment that we're in. So,
I shared by saying that it's been a privilege and burden of my life to be the first woman at everything I've done in my career in the last 28 years. And that has meant it has brought a heightened sense of responsibility for me. In fact, one of the first things that helped me find my voice was to think that I was not doing it for myself, but I was doing it in service of others. I was doing it to make things easier for others who came after me. And when I the very first sort of factory I was posted in, and the company had put me up in a hotel, and I went and stayed in the hotel. And within 2 nights of staying in the hotel, I knew that it wasn't a very safe place for women. And I had, I was like 2 weeks into the company, and I was like, how do I have the guts and courage to go and talk to whoever I needed to, admin, HR, to change this, to make it different? But what gave me courage was saying, this is not about me. I have to make it easier for not just those who come and live here later after me, but I must make it easier for women like me who are stuck in other towns in India, who are working in the service of Unilever, but are possibly not in as safe places as they could be. Because if there was no woman to test the safety system, you wouldn't know. There's nobody who's gone through the process, who's lived through it. So that gave me a lot of courage and purpose, because I could go, and I was battling, saying, make it easy and safe for women everywhere, not just me. I say when I write a book, I'm going to write a whole story on loos, because almost every place I went in, I started off by asking to build a loo for a woman, because there wasn't one. And when I was sort of leaving Hindustan Unilever and coming into London to do my assignment in London, I said, listen, people have roads and memorials named after them. Could you name a few loos after me? So everyone was joking, saying, Leena's Loos is a nice brand. It stays in mind. You can't forget it, etc. But the point being, you've got to find your voice, because you're constantly thinking about those who come after you. And you're saying, I've got this huge platform and responsibility. How do I make it easier?
And we had just purchased a small company. And in purchasing that company, she was targeted to be the lead integration person to bring that company on board and to integrate them into the business. Well, coincidentally, it turns out a month after the announcement, she announces to me and the leadership that she was expecting her second child. Now, suddenly, out of nowhere, the next meeting, they were saying, you know what, and I won't use her name, we should probably find someone else to lead the integration because she's probably going to have morning sickness. She probably won't be able to come to work. What if she has the baby early? And I'm sitting in the room listening to all of this, and I'm sitting here thinking, I know how excited she is to lead this integration. She's been working for it, she's prepared, and she's ready. And they took her off the list. So for the first hour, I sat there and didn't say a word. But as we got close to the end of the meeting, I said, you know what? I raised my hand and said, listen, she's been looking forward to this. I don't think we should make that assumption without talking to her that she no longer wants to do this. As men, we can't make those assumptions for women. Give her the opportunity to say that she still can do the project or she can't, but you just can't take her off the list. That's just not the right thing to do. And that came with a whole lot of other things after I said that, because they all looked at me like, you know, first of all, why are you speaking against the decision that we just made? So as if my voice didn't matter. The second thing is, why are you speaking up for a colleague? She's pregnant. She's probably not going to be able to do this. But I was steadfast in saying, give her that opportunity to make that decision. And I felt confidence by having that conversation. I didn't feel confident starting it because I was shaking in my boots. But at the end of the day, I said, you know what, this is the right thing to do.
I would say it's not just about those kind of key impactful moments of making a stance and impact. It's a bit like performance in life, right? It's about consistency and doing the small things always incrementally better. And I think that as a leader, you know, providing the platform for people to speak up and more importantly be heard continuously is pretty important. It was crucial. It's not pretty important. We run a series of workshops, and Joe Portlock on one of the earlier panels hosted these with a facilitator, which we called Courageous Conversations. And from my own perspective, and I'll talk about some of the discrimination that I've overcome, but I say that in a way that's nothing like, you know, some of my co-panelists and the stories we've already heard. But these courageous conversation workshops provided the opportunity for people to really talk about their experiences openly.
I think I would just build on it from another angle, which is really, as leaders, to what extent do we also create the right environment, especially for psychological safety, for others to dive in. I think that, you know, I'm looking at the fantastic panel around here. I think we've had enough experiences to simply say, right, we're going to do this. But I think often where sometimes in organizations it's not possible for people to do that is perhaps because we haven't really looked at what the overall internal environment is and the lack of, should I say, psychological safety within an organization. But, you know, for me, I think where I would kick off in terms of just taking action is deep self-reflection. And, you know, it takes me back to, I think it was about 2 months ago, and I was very new in the organization. And we had a session on just being either racist or anti-racist, you know, no gray in between. And, you know, we focused on work by Ibram Kendi, who's written the book, you know, How to Be an Anti-Racist. And there were some very interesting moments of silence because we were forced to go into a very deep session of self-reflection. And I think sometimes you just need to have enough quiet around you to really reflect. We live in a busy world. More so now, we are online and zooming our way through life. You need that quiet to really focus on what is meaningful, what is impactful, and how you can stand and make that change. So for me, self-reflection is always a great place to start. Where do I stand before I put myself out there in all of my power? And secondly, what environment have I created to allow other people to jump in their power and their truth as well?
You know, Leila, I was reflecting that, you know, discussions on inclusion really make me angry and impatient. Yeah, because I'm impatient for change. You know, if you see the numbers on female representation and leaders and governments and businesses, the numbers are crawling. If you look at, you know, race representation, numbers are crawling. You know, disability inclusion in any sense of the word. And I really feel we need leaders to create a almost burning platform for change, and that itself should give us the courage to speak up, shake some of the norms. Because this is not something, oh, it's nice to do, let's speak up when we have the luxury, when we feel a bit brave. This has to be an area where we say, what the hell, we haven't made progress as a generation of leaders trying to make this happen. We've spoken about it, we are eloquent about it, we all believe in it, we intend to do the right thing, but the numbers don't show that anything has really moved substantively. So one of the things I would also urge is for us as leaders to just do the simple things: listen, learn, connect, don't wait.
It's not natural, it's not safe, it's danger. People feel that they're in danger sometimes, and a psychological safe culture doesn't mean a nice safe one, right? To the point of Carlos, you want people to speak up and disagree, because that's what gets the best outcome. And I think if, as leaders, if we're asking that of other people, we need to ask it of ourselves. And a lot of people think leaders should be kind of these iron cast, perfect people that don't experience all of these emotions. And I think that as a leader, you have to be prepared to be vulnerable yourself, and especially at times like this, because people ultimately want the truth, they want respect, and they want authenticity from their leader.
So again, I go back to the fundamentals. If you're speaking the truth, and if you're speaking with facts, if you're speaking with purpose, I do think that you should, yes, be prepared for backlash and retaliation, but also know that above and beyond that backlash and retaliation, there is positivity and there is change. And again, it just calls to the courage. I mean, lots of reflection and lots of talk has been done about, books by Brené Brown, for example, on, daring to lead, on courageous leadership. And I just want to state that, the word leader here should not be misconstrued. Anybody is a leader in the context of when you are driving forward something for change. You are a leader. And I think that people need to come to these discussions fully aware that they're working for positive change. So I think it's part of the desire to effect that change that hopefully should be able to weather you through the backlash. Of course, if you can do things with support, with unity, I think driving people around a common vision always helps on this, but it's not easy. Speaking up and speaking out is not easy.
We've created a culture where we've had listening sessions all throughout the organizations with our, African-American employees, with our white employees, with mixed groups, with our marketing teams, you name it. We've had very candid, vulnerable conversations, and we encourage people to, speak up and talk about what's on their mind. What are the challenges that you're facing, either in your personal lives or your professional lives, and don't worry about what people think about you. And what we're starting to see is kind of a mind shift, is people are saying, I don't really care what you think. This is what's on my mind. This is what's happening to me. This is what it's like to be African American in this organization or on this planet right now. And this is what's real to me. So by talking about real experiences, how it impacts you, and what we've seen is that leaders are starting to stand up and take notice the more people are speaking out. So, whether it's the chicken or the egg, what's happening is whether we created the culture or we started speaking up and that created the culture, we're seeing more leaders listening, trying to find out what we can do. We're creating more allyship, whether it's organic or we kind of forced it. Don't worry about the outcome. The outcome will take care of itself. You do it because it's worth doing.